Memory bits.
Final Fantasy III was a sort of return to form for the Final Fantasy series. After 2 got very mixed reviews, the creators opted to look back at their first Final Fantasy game and build from there. The class system returns in a more refined way, characterization is toned down a bit, and the crystals are once again in some deep trouble. This new Final Fantasy was received well in its country of origin and showed that Square valued their audience and the criticism they gave. Keep in mind, however, that this game was never released outside of Japan until decades later in the forms of remakes. But credit where credit is due. Fans of the Final Fantasy series came together and made an English translated version, and I will take this moment to thank Secret of Mana 2 Freak, Alex Jackson, and Neil Corlett for their excellent work. The plot of Final Fantasy III, much like Final Fantasy I, was by no means a Shakespearean masterpiece, but it does go places and shows an almost growing up. While in its most basic form it might feel like an improved Final Fantasy I, it quickly steps up and goes beyond the rather simple "the big evil must be defeated to restore the crystals." It starts us off with 4 orphans who fall down a cave on a bad day. Quickly they face beasts in battle and make their way out. At the end they encounter a crystal, one of our lovely catalysts to set our story into motion. The intro states that the world is in disarray. What most games would have done is simply make that the problem, but Final Fantasy III delves a little deeper than that. Rather than there just being a singular enemy force, the game offers a journey across parts of its world and a look into individual problems. 4 orphans meet allies along the way who each fill a part of a prophecy, even while some might not be aware of it. In their journey, the 4 heroes learn of grave intentions and happenings, from spirits being free to cause harm to the realization their whole world was a mere floating continent in a vast ocean. Soon the true enemy is revealed to be Zant, a disenfranchised godlike being. This knowledge brings forth another troubling aspect of the nature of the world. Rather than there just being light warriors, there are also dark warriors. Rather than the simple approach of cleansing darkness from the world, the heroes learn about its balance. Collecting artifacts, friends, and powerful abilities, the 4 orphans rise through a damning magical tower into another world. There they face Zant, his minions, generals, and his ultimate tool, the Cloud of Darkness. The gameplay of Final Fantasy III shows an amazing growth from the previous 2 installments. Battles have been given a nice update in many regards, the job system is implemented, and the scale of the world has been upped quite well. The first things we'll note is in battle. The player's party lineup versus your enemies takes from Final Fantasy II, meaning you're not in a separate box or first person for combat. Enemies selected to be attacked will have hovering numbers above them to designate which party member will attack it. Unlike Final Fantasy II, where weapon skills will raise as you use said skill, regular level ups are back. The growth of statistics is determined by the character's job class. Job classes started in Final Fantasy III and feature very robust choices for the first use of the system. From basic fighters and mages, you acquire jobs that become larger staples of the series later on. Dragoons, Dark Knights, Bards, and many more. This allows you to dedicate characters to a certain type of job or have the flexibility to change when needed. And there are quite some moments where dungeons or areas can only be done reliably with a certain job. On that note, the game plays freely with its status magic. There are moments where it's needed for your whole party to be inflicted with Frog or Mini, and I love this. Traveling also gets a nice touch-up. I was surprised when I got an airship in the first hour of the game and screamed as it blasted itself to pieces only moments later. As luck would have it though, you'll cycle through various means of transportation, from bigger airships to submarines, even leading up to a ship heavily referenced in one of the later games. The music, while some pieces sound like simple renditions of previous games, offers some very strong variety, from hopeful melancholy tunes in your darkest moments to arrangements that invoke a profound sadness. Final Fantasy III had a very strong musical score in my opinion. Tracks like the one that plays in the Tower of Owen or just the first overworld gives this hopeful but sorrow-tinted vibe, and it feels very fitting. After all, you're on a journey that only expands and slowly reveals how large your opposition actually is as some dark things happen around you. Your painful pursuit of keeping the world intact, saving those you meet along the way, and the losses incurred there truly fit the melancholic touches in the music. In its more joyous or even comedic moments, the tracklist does not falter and supplies hopeful or enjoyable silliness to truly bring the scene home. While, much like the previous 2 installments, the tracks are not intricate in any major way, but does show this air of passion in its creation. Final Fantasy III offers a lot of new enemies and explores the concept that certain enemies require special weapons to even properly defeat. There are some wondrous, terrifying creatures here and a seemingly large amount of muscular men. While it offers its fair share of derivatives from the first 2 installments, there are some true nightmare-fueled designs creeping around. The bosses also look fierce in most cases and have deadly attacks to boot, from beings that would soon become eidolons and summons in the later parts to winged monstrosities, to be topped off by intimidating dragons and again, more burly men. A lot of the humanoid designs shine a fine elegance, while the more beast types are nice and unsettling in their own visage. Final Fantasy III offers an almost similar system to 2, where the party can have a fifth member along. While they are not used in combat, they fill much needed roles in the plot of the game and can be conversed with at your choosing. While many of these extra party members join to fulfill only one specific purpose around the location they join, they are varied, have personality, and their own tales and conflict. Here I feel we can really see Squaresoft working on characterization outside of the main party. Characters like Desh. Desh is found on the roost of Bahamut. While he aids the party in not getting eaten, he seems to have no idea who he is or what he's supposed to be doing. Perhaps a bit of a cliché, one of the cool action hero with a muddled and lost past, seeking to do right with whatever thoughts and memories he still has. Desh does find his resolve, himself and his purpose in a dire moment. Among others, there are also Elia, Alice, and the Mughals. Elia is a poor girl found by shipwreck being cared for by an elderly man. By some divine scriptwriter's pen, she turns out to be a valuable aid to the party and meets a sad end. Alice, Prince Alice, sees his father change before his eyes, thrashes his kingdom into civil war and banishes the young prince. By aid of the party, Alice seeks to return his father to normal, but in the end he sees the person he sought to save fall before his eyes. And Mughals. The Mughals serve Durga, one of the ancient sages of the realm. While they are mostly just assisting the party, this is the first appearance of these creatures in the Final Fantasy series. These extra party members allow for a good excuse to follow their path and are engaging enough to truly wonder about their story when they are with you. They fill vital parts in the story and complement it nicely. While they will only be around for the main story locations, I felt they were great and make the world-enveloping story just that bit more personal. Final Fantasy III was super strong for me when I was finally able to play it myself. Like has been said, it never really came out outside of Japan. I had a bit of a brush with the DS version, and that might be its own thing one day. But here we go. While it follows the general plot of stop evil by claiming the power of crystals and become destined warriors, it does have its own quirks and moments that make it a very sincere experience. The depth of characters, their plight, and what they do to aid the party feels highly personal and invokes this little sadness with me. While it might not seem so at first glance, Final Fantasy III has a lot of tragic moments and times where the opposition is seen as massive enough to crush you at any turn. That somber, lost feeling when you find your way off the floating continent and into the almost endless ocean, I felt was a strong moment, only enhanced by the melancholic music. Final Fantasy III was the end of the NES era for Final Fantasy and did bring a lot of new mechanics to the playing field that were refined and improved for future installments. The job system started here, many jobs and classes that became iconic were brought in here, and of course, Mughals. Final Fantasy III is a great game by my standards and truly feels like a game made by careful trial and error. It learns from its previous versions and then tries to still go grand in its own right. I would recommend this game as a perfect staple of the Squaresoft NES RPG era. This was Memory Bits for this time. I hope you enjoyed it and consider picking up Final Fantasy III for yourself.
Memory Bits.